one of these really strong picks being banned on blue side, SKT taking out the Mordekaiser. So they don't want to give H2k that very, very strong pushing lane. Because again, H2k as a team, they rely so much on taking down early turrets to create that goal advantage that allows them to take over the map and start winning team fights. So far, all three of their OPs have been banned away.
Yeah, and also feels like SKT is doing a lot to ban away any of H2k's playmaking potential. Kasing, tremendous Thresh.
Sure.
Julek's best champion is Lee Sin.
It's comfort picks they're hitting.
I think they're just also banning to stay safe.
Kasing is 10-2 on Thresh in his 12 games in summer, so it is a fantastic record. For H2k, they've gone for more of the power pick strategies. Will Darius be a follow-up? Is it even worth it, or do they prioritize something else and it will in fact be the Darius?
Elise will be picked now by SKT, so this is what I tried to mention just before here. For H2k, if they want to try and secure a stronger match in the jungle, which I think they need in order to really win the early game versus SK Telecom, Elise was my pick for Lulex. But now with these bans here, by taking away the other standard first picks, Elise is an easy one for SK Telecom. Bengi was fantastic in the final against KT on it. And this puts Lulex in a situation where normally in Europe he would go for the Gragas or the Rek'Sai, but none of them really wants to challenge the Elise that much in the early game.
So give Bengi some ability to move around quite well. As well, H2k banned kind of the 3 target champions that we expect to be most banned. Although Mordekaiser is the one to be banned in all 3 games. Maybe they play it safe here since they banned away most of the OPs.
Yeah, I think H2k, on the other hand, for their composition now, is going to say, you know what? We need something safe, something standard for us. Gnar, we have seen multiple times from Odo Omni in the top lane. And the reason Odo Omni can pick the Gnar here is he wants a lane where he can push it with a range advantage. Because then what they will do with the Gragas is they're going to have Odo Omni pushed in his wave 1v1. And then Gragas is just going to move up and you're just going to 2v1 dive. We might even see Shin support for Kasing to just make that even stronger. And then you can try and shut down the top lane now. You have a ranged matchup, most likely into a melee, if it's going to be like Fiora coming in, which is what he's also trying to prevent with his Gnar.
There's just so little damage if they go for that Shen support route, and Odo Omni doesn't manage to get a split push type of damage build. If Bang locks in this Tristana, again, it is another steal away from H2k. They're being pushed to their sort of tier 2, tier 3 picks, despite the fact that Lulex has played a large amount of Gragas.
H2k is giving away too much in this one. Tristana, to me, again, was one of the key picks to get that early tower push going. It does also deny a bit of the Kalista pick that could potentially have happened from Yanin. Fiora beats the Gnar in the early stages of this top lane, but then later on, once Gnar has some armor, it becomes a little bit more difficult for Fiora, and Gnar can start pushing her in. And then we can see the dives happening. And Rio, come on, just do it. Just do it. You have a physical top laner, though, I mean... It's not gonna happen,
It's
guys.
not
It's not gonna happen.
Should just blind pick Zed against Faker Deficio.
Just do it. He's gonna last pick his mid laner, unless he wants the blind as like one of the safe blind picks in mid lane, who has a lot of good matchups.
Let's look at what else H2k can do. They need some more damage. They've got a decent enough front line. They have some engage, some disengage.
Well, as we mentioned, SKT has done a lot to disrupt the comfort of H2k. I really like the way SKT has composed this draft so far. Because they are confident in their ability to play a ton of different champions to a high level. So they are still picking what they feel would be comfortable champions for them, whereas they're pushing H2k onto theoretically less comfortable things.
So we get the Braum. We mentioned it for Kasing. Yeah, it was either the Braum or going to be the Shin support for him. Sivir wants H2k. I mean, this is again a very standard H2k comp, but also very outdated in many ways. This is what we used to see during the summer split, before playoffs even. Sivir taking so many nerfs, still offers that utility for a team and a fast pushing potential, but you cannot take down towers as fast as a Tristana.
Faker has played Fiora mid on multiple occasions, so this could actually be a flex pick for SKT.
They need some AP damage on SK Telecom, and that's what we're probably going to get. No.
Okay.
It could be fancy, but they need some AP damage. Azir is the safe blind pick. Rio can take LeBlanc into it though, and try and outplay Azir in the laning phase. He can even go for Ahri if he wants that massive skill matchup. But he cannot fall behind.
That's what Nagne tried to do in the finals of LCK. Wasn't that successful?
No.
Azir has been nerfed since then.
Yeah, the audience
Zed would give them a whole bunch of physical damage.
We're not expecting it.
LeBlanc is actually something that could... Ari is the most likely.
And Ari is something that Ryu has used several times in the summer split, has dismantled teams single-handedly, especially the closer we got to playoffs and including playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, this guy used to be one of the biggest Ari players in Korea when he was playing there. He continued the trend. Whenever I talk to Broly about Ryu, he always says, oh, Ari, yeah, just give him Ari. He will make big plays. He will try and carry our team. This was the other option.
All right.
This is one of the reasons, like AZike and Victor, is not as safe to blind pick anymore, because these assassins are coming in here who can duel them in the early game and try and snowball against them. But H2k is running a composition that really, to me, screams, get that lead in the mid game, or you're gonna fall really far behind. And versus AZike and Tristana, your towers are gonna die so quickly, and the late game team fights are gonna be so difficult for you to play.
And truthfully, that's really H2k's strongest way to pick up a win here. They are somewhat outmatched in every department, whether it's individual, whether it's strategy, etc., etc. And we've talked about how H2k as a team, and Analysis mentioned it, in 10 to 20 minutes, they're pretty decent. SKT are even better.
And SKT Telecom's team composition is built around getting a large lead early. With the Fiora top lane and the tremendous turret killing potential of AZike and Trist, they're looking to do a lot of split push and turret destruction through better rotations. There's also a very good way when you expect to have a gold lead of any of the game quickly. So that's what SK Telecom is most likely going to be trying to do.
And I really fear for this massive mismatch between the top laners and junglers, with Elise and Fiora being so dominant in the early game. Gnar, he wants to get an armor item under his belt before he really wants to duel it. And Gragas, of course, going Cinderhulk. That is going to be a problem for H2k.
Can another LCS team pick up a victory, or will LCK's #1 seed SKT get on the board? That is what the analyst desk predicted. And in 25 minutes, according to Monte Cristo, SKT sure as hell have the tools to make that one happen. We're loading up to game number 3. This is the first from Group C. It's SK Telecom versus H2k. So, standard lanes or lane swap. We've mentioned how Fiora can beat Gnar early. H2k have done a lot of lane swaps in Europe and usually favor tower diving when looking to push the tower.
Right, and specifically lane swaps in the LCK often result in the top laner getting the majority of the farm. As far as teleport usage and experience gained on top laners, LCK is ahead of everyone else here, so it actually fits quite well for Marin to be on a carry top laner of Fiora. He's played mainly tanks during the regular season, but now on a carry, his large amount of gold share that he gets from the team maybe put to some better use.
The top lane swap focus, though, from SKT is often what's fairly weak against their fast push we see a lot in Europe and in NA, because it simply means that his team won't have time to move up and defend him once he TPs into that tower, because H2k will already be on that side of the map with 4 members and ready to dive him. Just forcing him out of the jungle, taking over this side. You see the 3 wards to spot every single entrance. SKT has just responded, getting very good wards into spot where H2k will be starting.
And H2k pretty smartly walks out away from that blue buff. They would have potentially been outmanned by SKT, but also because SKT put the deep ward in the red buff, this makes a very well-informed start for SK Telecom. They're going to get pretty much whatever they want now. Yeah,
you're going to see Lulix and Odoamne on the top side. So right now for SKT, either they expect the bottom lane for H2k to have recalled, but they will return very late to the bottom side, so they're expecting them to be up here as well. And now you get the 2v2 lane for them. So Fiora gets her 1v1 in. That's the key thing. It's not about the bottom lane winning. That's going to be basically like a sustain lane against each other. Bottom side of the map, though, Fiora and Elise together is looking to be the ones dominating.
And of course, Lulix is the player that was substituted out during the course of the end of the summer split. Betongyaka was brought in. And we need to see how much synergy he's been able to build up with H2k. Faker on the receiving end of some bursts from Ryu, but it's Ryu that walks away, having taken more damage.
Now, Ryu is starting Flask and 3 potions for himself, so he wants to take early trades, seeing as he can out-sustain Faker, but it also makes him weaker when he takes the trade, and he cannot take return damage if he starts running out of sustain. Then he's just so much weaker than Faker with the Dorn's Ring.
You have to at least trade, not just get hit by Azir again.
But I see it's pretty annoying because he has these soldiers standing so far ahead, and you're trying to last hit and just be a nice guy, and then smack, smack, smack.
Very true.
Lauren jumps in, lunges forward, and hits one of Odoamne's critical spots.
And this is specifically the result of the early game play by H2k. SKT had great knowledge of where they're being, and Bengi, being the smart jungler that he is, goes right in and denies Lulex. Such a smart play there.
This goes all the way back to level 1, where Marin kept walking towards the bush, and H2k was still standing there with the dual lane. Kasing kept hitting him with his Q, so he knew he was on the top side of the map. And it was very easy for SKT to read where the dual lane were going and simply just mirror it, get the 1v1. Bengi's already playing aggressive. We talked about the Gragas with the Cinderhawk. So far, SKT is off to a good start.
Yeah, and this is an example of a jungler who is in tune with his team's plan and a jungler who is not. Even based on the level 1, when H2k did the deep invade, they had no one guarding Lulex's own jungle start to see that he was spotted
Chain
or
on
not.
the minion.
Meanwhile, the rest of SKT was willing to counter-invade to push H2k away from the blue buff area. And the long result of that means Bengi can just go and counter-jungle the blue buff. And Lulex should and would have known that that would be a possibility and would have needed to have his team play around him, but nothing has been done to protect him, and therefore Lulex is far behind him.
It's just so hard, though, in the early game to protect, because if, let's say, Odoamne leaves the bottom lane to go in and force Bengi out, he falls even further behind in farm compared to what he is already.
Yeah, well, Bengi is one step ahead again.
Ryu may be in trouble. The chains connect onto Faker. There is the Mimic. Ryu's going to be chomped down by Bengi. Takes a turret shot, in fact. Ryu not going to be able to reply, and Lulex too late to the party to make anything happen.
Still some charges left on the flask and one potion for Ryu or Biscuit. We'll grab it. So far, with all these early trades, he has managed to force Faker back and use the sustain in his advantage. Top lane, a bit as expected. Not a whole lot happening, some early trades, but keeping fairly even in farm.
Yeah, but truthfully, despite Ryu trying to put pressure on Faker, it has not resulted in a lead. They are even on CS. Faker's got that second Doran's and Amp Tome as he's returning to lane. Ryu now backing. And it's even CS across the board. Look at the bottom half of the map. Bengi is about to come jump in on Odoamne. Those vitals are exposed. Marin's going to lunge forward, pop the vital, flash away. One more attack is all that's needed.
Yeah.
Marin goes in and flashes out for first blood.
First time Odoamne gets a chance to push their way back because it was so close to his tower. Bengi is already there, and Lulex is on the opposite side of the map. So Odoamne, I know it's such a tricky situation for a top laner, but you just got to leave the farm right there.
Yep.
You got to go back, get a ward for yourself, because you know this can happen.
Based on the position of the lane, his ward would not keep him safe. He had the ward in what I like to call the too late brush, because by the time you see someone in it, it's already too late, and he was pushed up in the wave.
Yeah, you got to get that extra side.
Yeah, it did burn 2 flashes from SKT, so if there was a return gank of some kind by Lulex, and they didn't have a 2-on-2, they would be able to turn it around. So at least it wasn't a total loss.
A small timing window if H2k can take advantage, but at only 6 minutes is a 700 gold lead for SKT. Small CS advantage and obviously that first blood gold, but take a look top. Bang and Wolf are now being pushed in by Hyanet and Kasing.
But it's been a very standard start for SK Telecom. They are a team who put a lot of focus on Marin in the early game with Bengi. They value getting these early fights between the solo laners and the junglers so much. It's so rarely about Bang and Wolf winning the early game. So just getting to play the style with these picks is perfect for them. And that's where it becomes even more difficult for H2k. Everyone agrees they are a weaker team, and you also get to play the playstyle SKT likes to use. So you didn't even like push them off and force early aggression or anything. It's just a standard SKT game so far.
SKT playing a little cheeky. Seems like it makes something happen. Remember, Headbutt Pulverize, it travels a little slower these days. Hyanet, is your spell shield up to it? He does manage to get out. Kasing is going to stand behind me to Hyanet, continuing to retreat. The unbreakable wall is good, but it is not good enough. He has a teleport from Odoamne, a reply from Marin. They turn their attention to Wolf. The Gnar gets a reply. Stun onto Marin. Reposit was not used. Continues to run away. The Braum is not going to be enough. That's a trade of 1-for-1. Top laner for the support, and H2k have nothing more to play with. Lulex is on the bottom of the map.
I need to see some synergy for H2k when this make plays. This one, obviously, you can't really blame them because they were jumped. They expected SKT to have recall from this top side, so they just wanted to push out the wave. Suddenly, Alistar Tristana jumps out of the bush. It's a good teleport from Odoamne to react and try and turn it around. But once again, though, it's SKT making the aggressive plays.
Honestly, though, both teleports being used, one jungler being there, and essentially a 4v3 going as a 1-for-1 is a disaster gank for SKT, and it gives H2k the potential to aggress. Wolf died, and Kasing is level 6, so Bang is actually in a bit of trouble.
Wow, Glacial Fissure for that one. And all Bang needed to do was rocket jump away.
And he had both summoners. A little bit
Optimistic.
That's a good word for it.
So, 2-1 in favor of SKT. The gold lead has shrunk. Ryu's earned a minute CS advantage, continuing to try pressure Faker, but this LeBlanc, dare I say counter pick, is not shown through yet. Marin lunges forward and procs that Vital on Hyanan.
I mean, Ryu has had a good laning phase so far. He was ganked early on, managed to escape it. He's ahead in farm on LeBlanc here. He has a good back timing already straight towards his Morello Nomicon. So Ryu so far can be fairly happy with how the early game has been going. And if it wasn't for SKT setting up that trap, we could potentially have seen Lulix be part of a gank as well. But he's just been a little bit unlucky, and then also a little bit bad timing for him where he is on the map when action happens.
And I think important to note, Hyanan now has a BF Sword and Avarice Blade versus the Pickaxe and Avarice Blade of Bang's Tristana. So, in theory, more fighting power on Hyanan's side.
Well, they're in different lanes, is one thing. Bang, I think smartly for SKT, swap back around the 10-minute mark. Trist, especially if it's going to be in a 2v1, can get a lot of turret pressure, not to mention Dragon advantage.
Oh, the root connects. Fake
Lulix
is throwing out the soldiers. Lulix does have access to that satchel, barrel rather. They're not going to get it down.
So if you notice the positioning here for Faker doing this trade, he's always moving down towards the bottom side of the map. Because we had to swap around, and H2k sent Kasing and Hyanan to the top side of the map, they completely lost control around Dragon. So Faker knows there's backup and there's zero vision for H2k, meaning Lulix cannot flash forward and take an aggressive one. Hyanan, on the other hand,
he makes really good bait. The grand challenge comes out, but here comes Lulix. The body slam does connect.
Beautiful play.
Goes down, and the three-man dive gets the kill.
that's what we like to see, and this is why the Gragas comes in for him. They're going on Faker!
It's not over yet. Ryu does manage to get away. That was risky and close, but he didn't throw down the ignite, and Ryu forced a flash.
This game stepped up in pace real quick in the last 2 minutes right there. SKT did the swap down to get Dragon control, whereas H2k didn't care about the Dragon and instead went for a kill. It could have been a dive that SKT planned on Ottawamne. They did not go for it. They instead used their 3 team members to go for the Dragon. And H2k does actually come out of this with a gold lead at 10 minutes. Who would have thunk it?
I like this Sivir pick because it means Hyanan can just keep pushing in the wave whenever there's a chance, and then H2k get to play their style with the dives from Lulix. He comes up, finally we see some coordination for them. I mean, it's harsh to blame him for what happened before, but this was the right move, and I like it. And it's a very European style that you trade top tower for Dragon. We normally don't care about those flying ones. We just want the gold from the towers instead, and that's how the European teams start snowballing.
I do have to say, sorry, quick shot. Much was made about SKT's gold leads at 10 and 20 minutes in the pregame. As far as teams at Worlds, H2k actually averages a 770 gold lead at 10 minutes, which is more than SKT. Obviously, there's a difference because it's about the competition you play against, and H2k was in Europe, whereas SKT was in Korea. But this is not all too different than the way H2k normally plays.
Oh! Well, that ranged minion saved Hyanan's life from the cocoon, and finish off that point, that 10-minute
What you're
gold
trying to
lead.
say, Trevor, is it cost him mana, because he would obviously have spell shield that one.
With that gold lead, H2k need to do more. Because I feel
Yes.
SKT's headroom with a 700 goal deficit is significantly more impressive in my mind.
Absolutely.
So let's see what they can do. Ryu continuing to try and make a play, 10 CS advantage. And he's not going to find those ethereal chains this time.
Lulix and the rest of H2k have actually been able to get a lot of deep wards into the territory of SKT. Both jungle sides are deep warded, and they're clearing away the defensive wards. Was about to. Is he going back for it?
Not this time.
Almost cleared away the defensive
threat
wards of
was too high.
SKT. So map pressure is actually pretty strong for H2k right now, which could potentially set up a play.
And now he's like getting to the point where Odoamne can just keep pushing that top lane. He's going towards the Black Cleaver first on the Gnar. So as long as he can keep Fiora in place, the rest of H2k can look to make plays. Ryu is constantly jumping Faker over and over, but he needs to be careful now. Bengi's coming as well.
Gonna be in trouble. Does get that passive pop, the mirror image, and is forced to peel away. No flash on Ryu, keep that in mind, versus the flash barrier, just flash of Faker.
Ryu needed Lulex here about 20 seconds ago because this turret is going to take a hurt right here. And even if Lulex comes in, it's now dangerous for him to do so because they need to be able to match Wolf as well. This turret is in a lot of danger.
And again, look at Kasing. He's coming up. SKT, Mel, they get caught out. Lulex gets caught by the Cocoon. Glacial Fish is out. The body slam flash gets Faker. Empress Divide splits him, but Ryu kills Faker. The chase onto Wolf. He's forced to flash away defensively. Neither Marin nor Bang move from their lanes, and H2k get one.
So SKT were just one step ahead at first, but then H2k, they showed they're not afraid to make the plays. They have the mechanics. Instant engage onto Faker, get the kill, and they return the damage now onto the mid tower. Wolf and Bengi trying their best to defend it.
Well, Wolf gets a multi-man knockup, but H2k are unbothered by that tower stance.
Actually, a really great cocoon there by Bengi to stop Yarn from auto-attacking that turret. That gives enough time for Marin to come and defend that turret right here and could end up saving SKT from a turret deficit.
Yeah, but now H2k are in trouble. Marin has a grand challenge and he's going to throw it down. It goes down onto, I believe, Kasing. Now he's forced to back away. The Winter's Bite comes out and a little bit of sloppy play here from both sides.
This Braum pick here can be super important for H2k because whenever SKT try and move forward, let's look at what can engage a team fight if you're SK Telecom. Bengi landing his snare or Wolf jumping in, knocking up targets. It's very easy for Kasing to position himself in the front, block the cocoon coming in from Bengi, or at least tag whoever's moving forward. If Marin comes in, tag him once, proc that stun very quickly. The way you beat Fiora in team fights is by having CC. She's gonna be a fairly squishy target, especially now we come to the mid game. H2k with some good focus fire can take her down very effectively, and a lot of it starts with Kasing.
You can only riposte one spell. There is a Glacial Fissure, an Explosive Cast, there are Ethereal Chains. There's a lot of tools for H2k to get rid of Fiora in that fight. My question is, if SKT starts split pushing with her, who does H2k send to deal with that? Because at the moment, I don't see anybody.
It's incredibly important that Ottawamne get his farm up. He needs to be able to complete Ninja Tabi, get his Black Cleaver down, and be a dueling threat to Fiora. It's unlikely that he gets to the point where he can actually beat Fiora, but if he can neutralize the Fiora, that's really all that's necessary. I think more so in this game, while SKT will do a lot of split pushing as they always do, it's all about split pushing to unlock objective and most specifically dragon control. This game is all about the dragons for SKT. It's their one lone advantage at this point, the fact that they have the first dragon, and I expect them to group heavily for the second one coming up in a minute.
Spotting Bengi on the bottom side. Both teams already moving in. Just a little bit of damage being traded. No TP for Ottawamne at the moment. Not even sure. They might just be ready in time for when the dragon spawns. And that's going to be so key. The difference in team fight between the big tank Gnar later on and if you're trying to assassinate a target. Ryu, again though, taking so much damage and he has to back away from the tower.
Faker keeps chunking him down, and thanks to Faker's work, tower number 2 falls in favor of SKT. They now regain gold lead, 700 in their favor, and Lulex forced out of his own jungle. Dragon's up in 20 seconds. SKT are getting all of the deep jungle vision they need to make this a safe and secure objective.
Yeah, and Ryu has chosen to chug his flask instead of going back to base before this dragon, so he's going to be just above half health if they decide to contest it. Not to mention they don't have the wave positioning, and the slow, methodical pushing of SKT, waiting for a little bit of scaling, which is near Nashor's Tooth on Azir and Ravenous Hydra on Fiora, and they're starting to win almost all of their lanes, which is applying the appropriate amount of pressure to unlock these free dragons.
Such a key thing right here was simply just the lack of teleport from Ottawamne. It meant that H2k could never engage in a fight because then Fiora joins in and it's a 5 versus 4 for SKT. So suddenly, all the pressure on the map, it's gone. SKT can invade in with Bengi and the rest of the guys, deep warded, force H2k back, take tower, take dragon. Teleport is such an important summoner spell in these a little bit slower games between two teams who kind of think the same. I call this a slower game that's been action enough. But basically, if you miss time to teleport even once, you might end up losing multiple objectives just from that one summoner spell being down.
So, H2k, they did lose that dragon. They are able to secure themselves a blue buff minion wave, pushing towards that heavily damaged outer turret, but there's no Hyanin, so no real threat for that to go down yet, especially now Faker's returned with that Nashor's Tooth and Blasting Wand in his inventory. 300 gold is all that separates these teams. And they seem content to just keep farming all 3 lanes with the respective carries.
Yeah, and with that farming, the scaling of the AZike is favored, so I think SKT is generally okay with this, as well as the Dragons continually ticking up. They have zone control with the AZike. Obviously, they would like to be able to end this game soon, but with some of the missteps that they had early game, this minimal gold lead requires a slower pace for SKT. They don't want to take risks, and they're going to try and play off their one advantage.
Step 1 for SKT is always going to be push up the mid lane first, because then you open up 2 ways to walk into the enemy jungle on both sides of the map. And that means you can so quickly move from the mid lane with Faker, with Wolf, who's sitting with him as the backup, to the side lanes. If someone is there defending a tower, you dive them. Otherwise, you just slowly push down the tower. Marin is doing on the top side.
The problem here for H2k, again, they're just not necessarily on the same page. No one yet to defend this top tower. Odoamne is left in the bottom lane. He's now fighting Bang. Bang's going to jump in, get stunned up by the Gnar. He'll have the support of Wolf in a moment or two, so H2k lose that tower.
Well, the problem right here for H2k is that they always have someone who's in a disadvantage. In this case here, it's because Faker can constantly push the mid lane, and then because Marin, of course, is going Hydra on Fiora, so he can clear the waves and sustain so quickly that he can just always keep pushing it. Odoamne needs more time shoving the wave back. So the tempo which you can clear waves is heavily in favor of SKT, so they can always make the first move, because they push the waves first. So H2k is forced to sit back and try and react. And reacting is never or rarely a good thing in League of Legends, especially when you're against things that can fast push down your turrets.
2,000 gold difference just from that passage of play, the last few minutes, and a dragon as well. SK Telecom starting to build up all the items they need. Ryu will just face tank a tower. Eventually. And that will at least even up that gold somewhat, but as it stands, H2k, they've now grouped bottom. Actually, take a look at this. Lulex hanging on the wings, and
but the turret's instantly gone, or the minion wave is instantly gone. If SKT does anything well, which is pretty much everything, but the thing that I think they do best is wave manipulation and control. Specifically with this team composition, trying to keep almost every single wave at a point of threat at every stage in the game kneecaps the opponent, and it makes it so they can't make aggressive moves because they're always standing to lose something by even attempting it. It's why this game is staying so low in kills, is because the tempo of the wave clear by SKT is so far ahead that of H2k. If H2k wants to break this cycle, they have to find a giant fight anywhere on the map that can't be disengaged. But then you look at SKT, they have the AZike knockback, the Tristana knockback, and an Alistar, so it's easier said than done.
What H2k needs to do right now is they have to put Yanin in the middle lane, because he's the only guy who can match Faker when it comes to pushing in these waves so quickly. And Ryu, you need to enable him to look for picks other than just jumping Faker over and over, because there's early magic resist coming, there's going to be an Abyssal, he has barrier. He's not the guy you're looking to one-shot right now. You need to find a Tristana, or you need to go to the lane and 2v1 against Marin on this Fiora. So Yanin has to sit in mid lane. Whenever he keeps going bot lane, it just goes even in that lane between him and Tristana, and then SKT wins the other 2 lanes in terms of pushing, and that's a big problem for H2k.
It really is, and again, we'll talk about a little bit more numbers. Ryu's going to jump in on Bengi. Repel will be able to get him out alive, but H2k is a team of traditionally either won early and won the game or lost. When behind at 20, they're 2-8. Whereas if they're ahead at 20, they're actually 16-2 over the course of the summer split. So stark differences. I'm not going to call 1,000 gold the end of the game yet, but for H2k, they are not in control of this match at all.
No, and the other play they could have made here, or should make, is if you want to stop these dragons from happening, when you play with an assassin, it's very important you get to the dragon first, and you start setting up deep, or not deep wards, but just pink wards. So you have bushes where you can hide out of vision for Ryu, and then surprise SKT, get to the backline and one-shot a guy. But they have 0 pink wards on them, so they cannot contest this dragon now.
So while I agree with you, I don't think SKT is, or I don't think H2k is ignorant to the fact that that's what they need to do with an assassin mid laner. They just can't, because SKT has so much wave pressure and so many deep wards. If they ever try and wait in a brush, they're losing a turret.
Well, I would argue right now that H2k have done a good job at least keeping the waves fairly even. They just had an opening to go in towards that dragon and try and secure the area. Obviously, again, it's not as easy as I'm saying here. Now you end up walking into SKT instead.
Well, there's the shuffle. Faker's got Empress Divine.
Nice
That's a 2-man body slam, and Faker's down. The Empress Divide, not even used. The Gnar is not going to get channeled just yet. Bengi's going to be the next focus. Yana was able to kill Faker. Now Marin's looking for Ryu and might just find him. Bang challenges down, but Ryu's going to stay alive and get away. Bang, left uncontested on the back line. He continues to auto-attack. Wolf with a two-man knock-up. Yana, get in the fight, man. No auto-attacks down yet. The boomerang goes out, not going to fly slow. Wow, Marin just eviscerates.
Beautiful play.
That's a double.
What an outplay.
And SKT demolish H2k.
He completely baited SKT, bro. H2k, sorry, right there. He jumps in, and when Ryu thinks I can one-shot this guy, he blocks the damage.
Holy crap, Marin. Faker gets caught out at the start of that fight. And because H2k had been pushed in for so long, they pile in. And honestly, this was H2k's fight to lose after they killed Faker. At the very beginning of this fight, Yarden actually trades a nice amount of damage with Faker, and Lulex times his body slam flash just right and gets the knockback. So Faker, gone. At this point, Marin's teleport completes and he is now in the fight, but it begins kind of a 4v5. He gets a ton of damage down onto Ryu right away, takes him out of the fight. So that's already essentially a kill because Ryu doesn't do anything for the rest of the fight there. But this is where the fight gets impressive. H2k could back away, take the 2-for-1, and then reset a dragon, but they get greedy. They want more. Marin dashes in for a kill, and then look at that. While he's channeling, you cannot deal damage to him. With that fight, they go straight for Baron. This game is not over yet.
Wow, 3,000 HP on Baron. H2k drips and drabs. There's no teleport for Odoamne. He's far away. SKT managed to get Baron secured. It may be at Wolf's life cost, though. No, Kasing forced to jump backwards. Unbreakable. Here comes Odoamne. He's in Mega Gnar already. And SKT managed to get out with some aggressive posturing. Baron secured, and that dragon as well.
And we really get to see why Fiora is such a powerful pick on this patch right here. The damage you can deal whenever Marin jumped in a matter of just 2 seconds, he would chunk H2k down to nothing. Didn't get to proc his ulti, which normally is the almost guaranteed win in a fight if he does. Now, another fight mid lane, though.
Well, take a look at this. Bang, looking for those critical hits. The QSS has been used, and Ryu's forced away. Look at the mid lane. SKT, they're pressuring the tower.
When SKT has an inch, they take a mile. They win the team fight. They go straight for Baron because Odoamne went down bottom, and now they're trying to use these Baron minions to demolish the turrets. Azir and Trist live for these types of sieges, and they want to push. H2k did enough damage to SKT that they may repel them for now.
The only reliable wave clear on the side of H2k is with Hyonin on that Sivir. And he's going to have a tough task. As long as those Baron-empowered minions are knocking on his door. Ryu, 1-1 on that LeBlanc. He tried to pick off Wolf, but gave up some positioning in that mid lane a moment or two ago.
And fight before Dragon, he tried to get Marin, but once again, it's so hard for him because Marin can block so much of the damage, the burst coming, and then he can just instantly dash towards Ryu and take the fight. And there's obviously 0 armor on LeBlanc at this point in the game versus Black Cleaver and Hydra on a Fiora. I mean, that's very one-sided.
I will say that this game is much less one-sided than many were expecting. We're 26 minutes in. The gold lead is only 4,000. The game did not end at 25 minutes, as Monte Cristo made the bold prediction on the analyst desk. But this one, H2k, if that dragon fight, if they don't overcommit onto Marin, they could actually still be winning this game. Well,
Kasing's in trouble. On the hunt's been used by Hyonin, and the Glacial Fissure was thrown down. Kasing's life is forfeit. SKT, 4-man strong, will take themselves their 4th tower.
Well, they did overcommit onto Marin at the dragon fight, and now they're paying some pretty harsh consequences. One mistake has led into a chain of ups. H2k does feel out of sorts here. They're trying desperately to stop this, but it's probably inhibitor gone.
SKT showed respect to H2k. They didn't try and overcommit in the early game. They played out the lanes. They knew they had the pushing advantage. Could just wait for key items, and they still have the Baron buff.
Well, we just talked about how it's 26 minutes in and the game's not over. We may need to revisit that discussion in 10 seconds, gentlemen. We do see Ryu still looking for a target, but not going to find one. And SKT not going to overcommit. The death timers were still low, and Kasing was able to respawn.
And that's been the thing here for SK Telecom. They've felt in control almost all game long. There was a very good move for H2k with the dive on the top side of the map. We saw some good fights coming in. Lulex in these team fights have had some very good engages on the Gragas. And they're looking for another fight potentially. Wolf does have ulti ready though.
Let's take a look. Emperor's Divide available for Faker. And the threat means H2k will back away. Teleport's available for Mara, and he continues to pressure the bottom lane, and Supers will be knocking on the steps of H2k's base shortly. H2k starting to come apart at the seams, looking maybe for a desperate play to get themselves back into it.
Yeah, and the trickiest thing about this is even a desperate play that works might still grant SKT an advantage. Marin is such a monster in the split push here. Maybe Ottawamne can't even stop him from continuing the push, and that just makes a 4-on-4 with all the disengage on the side of SKT's for H2k is in a lot of trouble here.
A lot of this goes back to the pick and ban phase as well, where Elise was the first pick for SK Telecom after H2k ban out a lot of these OP picks. They keep trying to look for something. Ryu jumps in, doesn't really pull the trigger with his ulti just yet. But getting that Fiora and Elise combo meant that H2k couldn't fight against Mara in the early game. They gave up first spot as well with the double flash used from SK Telecom, which kind of starts the whole snowball. It went fairly slow, but it was in control of SK Telecom. And now we got to see what Marin can do in a team fight on a very farmed Fiora.
Farmed and fed. Over 10 CS a minute at this point in time, involved in 7 of his team's 8 kills. Secured 5 of them himself. Marin is a monster. And is able to just pick apart whoever he chooses.
Yeah, 4,400 gold difference there, and you can see SKT gained 2,400 gold from the moment right before they had Baron till the expiration of the buff. So adding significantly to their advantage.
Yeah, more importantly, open up the base, get inhibitor down. You have 3 dragons to 0, so you have multiple ways you can now play it out if you are SK Telecom. There's barely anything wrong you can do, other than start splitting up and allowing Ryu to get maybe a one-shot if Faker randomly walks into him. But as a team, SK Telecom should never make that mistake. H2k looking to see maybe we can sneak a tower in the mid lane. Too late,
Not this
though.
time. H2k are just being outplayed across the map here. SKT continually finding advantages, and while the 4-man SKT pushes down the bottom, again, Marin is on a side lane. He's looking to secure that top lane in a turret. Ottawamne is going to go mega, and SKT pay it the proper respect, backing away. It will be quick enough. Glacial Fissure not there. Look at Ryu on the left-hand side of the screen. It's just not going to be enough.
And that Sivir ultimate down. Still no response for Marin on the other side of the wave. SKT's going to get some big advantage out of this.
Another tower's going to fall shortly. Marin is going to chunk that one away. He's got GA available. We're actually going to cut over. Ultimate thrown onto Ottawamne. But Marin's going to back out, and it's just, there's too many balls for H2k to juggle, and they cannot. Wow! By Ryu, he's down. Bang! Sends him packing. Tries to find Yana, not going to be able to. This Satchel, Cask rather, knocks Lulex backwards, and he's going to go down as well. It's done. SKT are destroying H2k's base. Top lane inhibitor is under fire. Bang and Marin are taking it down. The tower fell in the bottom lane. There'll be another inhibitor falling if they even want it. Nexus turret number 1 will be dropping at the 31st minute. Number 2 will follow shortly thereafter, and SKT are on the board 1-0 in the group stages.
And quick shot, it was so systematic. 31 minutes is a fast game, but it felt slow. H2k looked to be having a gold advantage, because they did have a gold advantage for a lot of the game, but they never really had control of the match. Every time they went for a play, SKT would have an answer or pressure somewhere, and it's an adequate start for SKT here.
The small openings that were for H2k, they didn't take advantage of it. We didn't get to see the pink wards trying to set up Ryu to create some picks. He was stuck in the mid lane against Faker all game long, so that full control of where the assassin was on the side of H2k. But we have seen 3 games today now